Hello everyone, this is Matt Menifee and this is my week 2 update. This week I decided, or what I was working on this week was just some simple data exploration of the data that I collected, the headlines for each stock, and some some of the data for the stock prices. So let's jump in. So the first thing that I started with was the headlines, and I obtained these headlines again from Kaggle. They are a list of over 1 million headlines for 6,000 different stocks. One of the main things that I needed to do this week was isolate the stocks that I was looking at, and so I did remove the all the other stocks from the list and separated each one of them out into different news files or different news data frames. And what I needed to do first was use natural language processing to remove all of the um, stop words, the white space, the capital letters, and and all of the special characters from the headlines. So I removed all of that and took out all of that from each one of the files that I created, or each one of the data frames I created. It looks like I accidentally captured something that covered up some of the data frames, but there is a headline data frame here for Cisco Systems, one for Duke Energy, JP Morgan Chase, and then finally Southwest Airlines. So I did separate all of those headlines from the main data frame that contained all million headlines there. And then I removed all of the stop words, punctuation, and all that from the corpus of those headlines. And this is just an example of the code that I used in order to do that. And then next I created a word cloud for each one, just to see if anything would really jump out for headlines, anything that would really show up that might give me an idea of what a lot of the headlines were talking about. In this particular case, we did not really see a whole lot of anything that I didn't expect. For each one of these, the name of the company is the most occurring word. So, and then we have different variations. So like Duke Energy, Cisco Systems, JP Morgan, Southwest Airlines. And then one of the other things here that we see a lot is buy, sell. Let's see. But these word clouds here really didn't surprise me very much. I just expected the headlines would be a lot of just the main words being the companies themselves, or the actions that clients or that people are taking on those. So buy, sell, as we see here, and so on. Next, what I did here was just some general exploration with the time series data from the pricing. So in this particular case, these just describe the mean price, standard deviation of each stock during the time period. The count, that's just actually the number of entries per stock. And actually, one of the things that I did need to do before starting this was there's a whole bunch of extra information in the Excel spreadsheets that you download from fidelity.com that needed to come out of those, so I had to drop all of those rows. I did that using the iLock in Pandas, but this is just a real quick general description of the statistics for each of the time series data for each particular stock. Doesn't really tell us a whole lot. But this right here is our time series data set from Cisco, going back 10 years, obtained from Fidelity Investments. This is just the closing price. So I thought, taking out the candlestick graph images that were on the original data that I had obtained, I thought the closing price might be a better indicator of what the stock was doing, or what was happening to the stock on a given day. Of course, we could go back and take a look at the changes and add the change into these particular graphs, just to see. This right here is a density of the price, of the closing price, a density graph of the closing price here. And we can see just for Cisco systems, it looks like it likes to hover around $20 to $40. But if we look at our graph here, we can just see that the stock has risen over time. So the density graph may not really tell us much. The volume here is the last thing that I graphed out here, is the volume of the trading. And this again is just volume over time. And so we can see just a couple of big trading days in the past 10 years here for Cisco systems, and then it just kind of seems to level off. Moving on to Duke Energy, this graph seems a little bit more interesting because it's probably, well, it's linked to the price of oil, of course, but what we see here is it likes to, well, it's very, very volatile, has lots of different spikes here. The density here in the graph shows that it sticks around a lot between the $60 and $100 price point. And the volume graph is incredibly volatile. It just jumps around all over the place. Next here we've got JP Morgan Chase. Again, this is just the closing price of JP Morgan. Density graph of JP Morgan again. And again, this is just going back for the past 10 years. We can see the price slowly rising over, or well, maybe not slowly, but rising over the past 10 years. And then our density graph here showing us that the price of the JP Morgan stock is or has been most of the time around $50. But what we can actually kind of see is that it has been steadily rising over time, and this may not be the best indicator. Again, with the volume, that we do see a lot of trading volume early in the past 10 years, and then it does kind of level off, just like Cisco systems did. And then I've got Southwest, and this one I thought was actually a little bit more interesting for the times that we're in right now with COVID-19. So again, we've got the closing prices, and we can see a big drop off here in the price, and that's probably due to the COVID-19 and all of the canceled flights that everybody's been doing to try to curb the spread of the disease. So this right here is a really interesting point on the graph, and we can see that in the trading volume, as investors probably were scared and unloaded their Southwest Airlines stock. Again, the density of the stock here hovers around hovers around maybe around like $20 per share. That looks actually like 20 is at the lower end here, so it's probably a little bit under $20. In this particular case, that looks like it might have been a floor for our stock price, and looks like it might start rebounding here, but I'll be doing some more data exploration here to continue my research. So this is what I've just had this week, and I hope everybody's projects have been going well, and have a great rest of your evening.